can see the sunset that way. Moon right there, little street light, you know what I'm saying? Some real New York City shit. But we in Brooklyn, though. Don't forget about it. Was that recorded? Word up, word up.
So, bro.
What's really good?
Yeah, man, we got moe.BPM in the building, like I said before.
What up, what up?
With the OG house legend over here.
Damn.
Yeah. Brooklyn house legend.
Hey, I'll take it. But there's a lot of legends out there. It's more legendary than me. But
yeah.
where I exceed in legendness is in my own unique stamp. And you could do that too, yo. It's like nobody can be you better than you, yo.
That's a fact.
Always remember that. Word.
Yo, bro, so kind of want to just kind of get to know you a little bit better, you know.
Okay.
I know we've been friends for a while now.
No doubt.
Really hadn't had a chance to do this, so
Okay.
Can you just give us a breakdown of, like, you know, your background, where you're from,
Yeah.
Brooklyn raised, or, you know.
Yeah, so I'm definitely a New Yorker, but I was born in a place called White Plains. It's about maybe 30-40 minute ride from Brooklyn, up in Westchester. I was raised in a town called Greenburgh. A lot of legends come out of Greenburgh, you know what I mean? So, yeah, you know, I lived in a few different Westchester towns and cities that's produced some legends, you know what I'm saying? From Mount Vernon, which is close to Yonkers, right next to Yonkers, which got mad legends. You already, Mount Vernon, like, you know what I'm saying? They was getting it on in the park right around the time they was doing it in the Bronx, too, because the Bronx borders Mount Vernon, too, like, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, I come from the 914. Music is my life, pretty much like us all, but for me, it's like my early recollections is being in the living room in front of the stereo, because back then, you know what I'm saying, you had the big speakers, you had a turntable and shit, you know what I'm saying, you had the radio, like your setup was like, you know, you had the amp, you had the toner, the receiver, like all of that shit, like, you know what I'm saying. My pops had the reel-to-reel player back in the day. We used to listen to joint on a reel-to-reel, like, you know what I'm saying, on the weekends, you know what I'm saying, New York radio, all the oldies, all the classics would be bumping in the crib, you know what I'm saying, while whatever's going on. So that's kind of like some of my early recollections of music. You know, I come from a musical family as well, so it's just like me. So, you know, I don't necessarily, should we, we'll let the traffic keep it moving, but yeah, you're like, you know, I don't necessarily play any instrument yet per se. I might fiddle around on the keys un poquito, like, you know what I'm saying, but I guess I express myself while I rhyme, you know what I'm saying. That's probably one of the first expressions, you know what I'm saying, writing rhymes. That's probably like in class, like high school, college days, not paying attention and just zoning out, writing, scribbling, like, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Shortly after, I started like attempting to make beats. One of my cousins kind of put me on, showed me the ropes, so I kind of like started making beats in Reason software, you know what I mean.
Oh, Reason,
yeah, and then, like, you know, I kind of like from that point would kind of more write rhymes, because I had more access to like people who made beats, so it'd be like rhyming over they shit. But I say probably like around 07, you know what I mean, I landed my first computer or whatever, you know what I'm saying. Started making my own beats right there and rhyming over my own beats, and that's pretty much been the deal. Like, you know, it's just that kind of symbiotic flow of a need for a beat to accompany the rhyme, like, you know what I'm saying. And then, like, so, you know, hip-hop has always been like the forefront of like my musical taste and expression, but hip-hop comes out of the, you know, the funk, the soul, the disco, all of those things, the jazz, you know what I'm saying. So it's all encompassing, so I come from that too, even though like hip-hop, you know what I'm saying, I'm a b-boy, you know what I'm saying. But fast forward, I don't know when, but like I started kind of like coming out, hanging out in the city. Am I talking too much? Y'all all right out there?
Yeah, we good.
I bet. Yeah, I started coming hanging out in the city and going to the clubs. Some coworkers I used to work with, really good friends, you know, these girls, they were like, oh, if you like this music, then you should go to Sullivan Room. So I'm like, oh, word? Well, let's go. So we went. And it was like instant, fell in love right away, like, you know what I mean? And from that point on, it's just when I started kind of diving into the house and the techno and all the above, you know? And I was just, you know, a fan, a party goer, somebody, you know, letting loose of the tension that builds up all week, working and struggling to survive, coming to the clubs and letting it go, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get that.
So that's how it started. Yeah, how we looking out here? That's what's up. This is a secret location right here. If you know, you know. If you ever been over here for a good time.
So what yeah, so let's get into like your overall. I know you love hip hop, you love kind of like old school hip hop and all that. How does that kind of define your style currently?
Interesting question. But if you think about it, it's funny because, I don't know, one of the classes that I always kind of paid attention to in school was history. And I kind of look at life through those lenses. So when you talk about like old school hip hop, you know, I came up, I was conscious in the late 80s, mid-late 80s, early 90s was kind of like, I was really here, right? But if you think about it, what was going on at that time, you also had the house and the techno going on at the same time too, like, you know what I'm saying, in that era. So it's just like, it's all encompassing once again. And you'll hear people talk about, you know, the classic NYC club era. You know, they went, you know, house music would probably be like either the main or not, but like they would be all in the same night, like different times or all in the same building. Like it was just more like cohesive. It was just part of what was going on. So it almost makes sense for me to have tapped back into it later on when I matured more, because you think about it, house and techno is more mature in the sense of, at least to go to the club you got to be 18 or 21 or some shit like that. So in that sense, but it is still a very youthful thing at the same time. I'm not saying that, but yeah, so you know, it's only right that I kind of hook back around and kind of tap back into that, because it's, like I say, it's all encompassing, yo.
Yeah, I feel you.
Word.
That's what's up. So what are some artists that you grew up on and related to house music and hip hop? Like,
well, that's crazy, because back in that day, I can't really say that I had any real house figures that I connected with per se, but I know I definitely was hearing like Larry Heard joints on the radio, when it was probably somebody like, you know, maybe Frankie Knuckles doing the set, like, you know, playing on the radio or some shit like that, like, you know what I mean? So that stuff was always on the radio, so you would always hear it even if I didn't know the details. And that's one thing that's interesting about house music, you know, and techno. It's like, unless you're ahead, often those details of who the artist is or what the label is kind of like go unheard or unknown, unnoticed or whatever. So unless you like a digger, unless you read in liner notes, you may not know all of that stuff. So I didn't really know many artists back then as far as like the house and you know, but like for hip hop, I mean, some of my first influences were like Rakim, Big Daddy Kane, and KRS-One. Like those dudes for me, like I guess I would say for the late 80s, though, that would be it for me. Once the 90s kind of swung around, it was like Wu-Tang, you know what I'm saying? Of course, like the Biggie and the Nas, like all that Queen stuff that was coming out in the 90s was fire. Mob Deep, you know, like all the Queensbridge sound, like, you know, I don't want to start naming names like and missing people, but yeah, like that era of 90s is kind of like, that's my vibe, that's me. Like again, like, you know, like I said, Nas, Mob Deep, Wu-Tang, you know, and then when we get into Wu-Tang, I would probably say that Ghostface and Raekwon really probably molded a lot of my rap style, like, you know what I'm saying? Or at least I definitely, it's like Raekwon with the slang and Ghost just with the like whatever and the attitude, and then he got the higher pitch. It's just like those two dudes stood out to me a lot. You know what I'm saying? And then RZA. Now RZA's style of the beats, where the samples kind of were like at the forefront and the drums were kind of like minimal to no, you know what I'm saying? That, and then the rawness, that to me is like the sound, that's my favorite sound, and that influenced my whole approach to producing the kind of hip-hop that I produce, you know what I'm saying? It's definitely sample driven, you know what I'm saying? Kind of like loopy in a sense, and it's minimal to no drums, unless of course the sample got, you know, whatever drums might be in the sample. But I like that. It's funny because like when I first started making beats, if I can continue on, y'all all right?
Yeah, we good.
When I first started making beats, at some point I found myself kind of like doing less and less drums because I liked how all the other sounds kind of laid way for my voice to kind of go over it, and it was like the perfect platform for my voice without the drums. Like, so, you know, it's just crazy how when they come around to making the beats that, you know, that's just kind of ended up being my style anyway with the samples, like, you know. And there's a lot of artists out now who kind of pervade that sound too. You know, I'm not trying to sound like, you know, whatever, but it's definitely more underground still, even though you got some popular people doing it. So, you know, at the end of the day, I'm just doing me, and that's how it comes out.
I got you. So let me ask you this: that song you sent me earlier, that's your track?
That was the video, right? That was like something from, I want to say like 2009, yo.
You made that?
I made the beat. You know, that's me on the rhymes. That's some of my old stuff. Yeah, man, that was from a project called the Casbah, featuring Pepe La Moco. It's a movie about a jewel thief, and you know, after his last greatest heist, he fled from France to Algiers on a lamb, and he was pretty much untouchable. Cops couldn't get him while he was there, but he also couldn't leave. So it was cool for a minute, but the movie picks up to where he's already in there for a little bit, and he's starting to get like a little tired of it. He's starting to feel trapped. So in one way or another, the character resonated with me, some of the things I was going through in life at time, and so I just kind of channeled that into that project, the Casbah.
That's dope.
Yeah, that's in the archives, no doubt.
Yeah. All right. So let's get into the DJing, bro. Like,
Yeah.
What got you into DJing, first of all, and second of all, what techniques do you think every DJ should have?
All right. Well, I mean, like I said, once I started hanging out, going to the clubs and the lounges was still popping in that era. It was on some like sexy shit, like, you know what I mean? Drinks, dim lights, you know what I mean? Young men and women just outside doing their thing, like, you know? So really what inspired me was, you know, you go out, especially when I first started going out, I didn't always know the artists or the DJs. I didn't always know the songs or whatever, the records per se. But I knew when there was vibes coming through the speaker, like, you know what I'm saying? And so the mystery of it all intrigued me. It's like I had a thought like, damn, this motherfucker's, you know, if he's playing a record, he's playing some fucking black disc that's basically unknown, but like all these vibes is coming out of it, and the way it's affecting the room, and it's like that all just like inspired me to want to try it, want to do it, want to take part in it. So that's kind of like how that started. And from there I was like, all right, I think I want to do this. You know, how am I go about this? So one of my mans, Anthony Avatar, shout out the brother Anthony Avatar. You know what I mean? He on a little sabbatical right now, but he'll be home soon. Y'all gonna see him. He was like, yo, just get 2 techs and a mixer. Start doing your thing. And that was mad simple advice. And, you know, I took that. I got some turntables, some techniques, some used joints. And I got a mixer. Then I started buying records. And that's pretty much the journey, you know. And it's still a journey, like, you know, because it's like it's one of the things that I'm just gonna carry with me throughout life. I may not be doing it every day or playing gigs every weekend, but I'm gonna always be doing it. You know what I'm saying? So as far as techniques for aspiring DJs, I don't really know if I got any advice like that, but I'm just saying that it's probably best for you to definitely go with your gut, follow your heart. Like, passion is like very key. Like, you know, it's like, I feel like you remember being in high school and making a mix CD for a friend or a girlfriend or a boyfriend, or I don't know, getting new music and sharing, like, yo, you hear this, like, you know what I'm saying, mixtapes, whatever. Like, if you share music, in a sense, you're a DJ, like, you know what I mean? And I don't mean to like diminish the actual role of the DJ and what goes into it, but if you think about that aspect of it, you know what I'm saying? It's like you're sharing music, you know what I'm saying? So sharing is caring. Just care about what you're sharing, care about what you're doing, you know what I'm saying? I think those vibes will be picked up and received well. That's the best advice I could give. Just do you, be true, that type of shit. Like, you know what I mean? All that cloud chasing, don't do it, you know what I'm saying?
Alright, bro, so do you have like any ritual or like kind of like routine that you do before you go to a set? Like, what's going through your mind?
So once I get the news that somebody, you know, wants me to play, and I kind of get the idea for, you know, when I'm gonna play, where I'm gonna play, and, you know, all of those kind of details, then I just start kind of imagining the night. I kind of go through the night in my head, how I imagine the night will go. Not to say that it's gonna go that way, so you gotta keep that in mind, be prepared, stay limber, you know what I mean, in case you gotta flex a different move, go a different direction, whatever. But I go through the night in my head, and then I start picking records that I kind of want to play for those moments that I'm going to be playing, like, you know. So I'll just kind of start playing records and listening to pretty much what I'm going to be providing for you or for the crowd that night. And I just kind of go through a process of that, you know, up until the time of the gig, like, you know. That's pretty much how that go.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, is there any like emotions you feeling before you go to a set? Like, you know, like,
I mean, there's always a little bit of nerves involved. Like, you know, a real dope brother from back in the day once told me, he's like, yo, if you nervous, yo, really what you're seeking someone else's approval. So he's like, you got to think about that. It's not bad to wanna, I guess, you know, have someone's approval, because as a DJ you're performing, and if you're a performer, you're doing it for the crowd, you're doing it for a certain type of reaction and response. But at the same time, that can't be your drive. You still gotta kind of just come from within and do kind of like what you have in mind.
So the question is, have you ever been like hesitant about playing a certain track, like you're not gonna sure how the crowd's gonna react?
I guess yes and no. I don't really like to kind of have any kind of restraints as to like what I can or can't play. So if I'm gonna think twice about playing something for the crowd, it's only gonna be because it's like I'm second guessing or I'm questioning if what I'm about to play is right for the mood, if it's right for the journey, you know what I'm saying, if it's a proper like progression, or like, you know what I'm saying, it's all about energy. Is it gonna match the energy of the moment, like, type of thing. So that's kind of like really how that would go.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Word.
Also, like, what do you think about female DJs kind of creating their own lane?
Yo, shout out to the females. I think it's beautiful. I mean, it's crazy that it even has to kind of be a thing or a conversation or whatever.
Right.
Because, yo, that feminine energy behind the turntables is some of the most enjoyable thing that you can experience. I don't know, it's just something about a woman's energy providing her putting that into what you're experiencing through the night. I don't know. Some of my favorite DJs are women. Shout out Ash Lauren. Like, you know what I'm saying? So, and Analog Soul. Like, come on. Like, there's so many. I don't want to, again, get into that. But, I think it's beautiful. I think it should be more of a regular thing. I guess it's becoming more a regular thing. And, that's dope. I mean, a woman's touch is always going to be special. So, yeah.
So, have you ever performed like when you're not, like, let's say something's on your mind and you're not really there, but you got a gig and you want to make sure you provide the best experience?
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna probably say no, only because these types of things are also like an escape for me. It's not so much of a thing, again, where I'm like doing it all the time every weekend to where it becomes like this redundant thing or like almost like a job. I mean, for a lot of people it is a job, and I can see it being that. But for me, no, it's more of like a form of escape. So if I got some shit going on, and I go somewhere to play, for that few hours, I'm not local. Like, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, it's my escape.
Okay.
Word.
Go-to track that you play?
Go-to track is hard because that's gonna always change depending on, just moods, like, and things is always shifting. But the one for right now that I would probably say is For the Dancers. That's by Ben Hickson, Amplu Jr., and Stefan Ringo is on the vocals. That track is fucking hot. Like, anytime you play that, anywhere you play that, you gonna move some people. They're gonna be like wondering, what is this? Like, yo, banger. From here all around the world, yo. So that's the joint that I'm probably like keeping in my bag and playing whenever I'm out, like at the moment. So it's probably that joint.
Yeah, that's a fire track.
Shout out to the homie Irv Fine Touch. It's like Irv is I met Irv through another friend. We got a mutual friend, but that's what New York is. Like, we all mutual friends. We just don't even really realize it yet. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, and it's just like, again, being that I met him through a mutual friend, it's like we probably just had a lot of mutuality, a lot of commonality, like a lot of similar tastes and vibes, And it's just like, the more I would see Irv and the more I would hang out with Irv, the more that would be confirmed. And then, like, this last time, we were all out in Detroit for Movement Weekend. And that first night, at the first event at Motor City Wine, it was like, it was live music. Dez Andres, Ian Fink, Ant Fiddler, and a couple other musicians. They were playing live music in the back of Motor City Wine. It was banging. But Irv was like one of the first people that walked in. So, I saw him, he saw me, shouted him out. He came and sat down with me and the homies, and we were just there the whole night chilling and vibing. The music was like cosmic, yo. We would smoke. We had this like joint. We was smoking and just drinking wine and like being blown away. So, it's just like shit like that makes the homies, like,
Yeah, for sure.
And then, playing together again is just almost like a no-brainer because the vibes complement each other. You know what I mean? And we could definitely coexist within a space, and rock it out. And I think that's what we did at Elsewhere, yo. It was a dope night. You had Juan Atkins in the main room. You had Harrison Beatty in the zone. And then you had me and Irv up in the loft getting down. And I know a lot of people was bouncing around through rooms, but they was telling us like, yo, the vibes is here. I'm not stepping on no toes. Man, respects to everybody named. That's definitely not a diss to them, but I'm just saying. We bought the vibe. Shout out to Irv. Thank you, bro, for the invite. And shout out to Elsewhere for having us. If you watching, like, yo, I am local in that sense. So I'm available. Holla at me. And anybody else. Got them vinyls, like, you know what I'm saying? I got the vibes. I do this a little bit. Hey yo, check this out. This is moe.BPM, and you know the vibes.
jail, work, school, whatever you want to CALL. I'm stuck like IV, slowly being drained from this needle that's inside me. The motherboard lives and feeds off my energy. Without the likes of you and I, illness with no remedy. Trembling like the whirlwind, America shot Kennedy. If they hunting their own, then who's defending me? Genesee, IDE, promote life on the MIC. Cheddar sharp as your digital TV. But D is nice at springtime. Riding bikes in the park with your PYT. Some wonder who I be. I'm that familiar face stuck in the back of your WIG like deja vu. A glitch in the matrix opposite of ICU. Cause I have no patience. Your neck shine but my mind emits radiance. Mind frame on the high end of the plane gradient. Definitions ain't explaining it. Your grasp ain't obtaining it. And your raps ain't really taking it there. I'm the who, what, when, why, where. Right here in front of your ear. Remember there in grade school. Wave favorite shades on, I'm cool. Calm and collected. Microphone I rap with. Rhythm that I step with. Honed and perfected. Through the beat reflected. Through lyric thought projected. Skills with infected. Scantily clad naked. Rawness. Not more the tongue in the jaw kid. Poems ain't flawless. We all humans. But our stubborn ways and actions gon' lead to our own ruins. Where 10 may gain, 100 to lose. Now that's 10% now. Divide that by 2.